Hi everyone, welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Over the years, Tesla has been hit by so much FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt that I still hear common misconceptions of the company today, things that have either been totally debunked or issues that Tesla have already fixed. So let's see if we can go through the most popular FUD cliches and put an end to them now. So why is Tesla subject to so much FUD? Well, what's Tesla doing? Disrupting some fairly big industries. Oil and gas, the third largest industry in the world, and automobile sales, the fifth largest industry, and automobile manufacturing, the sixth largest industry. But if you consolidate automobile sales and automobiles manufacturing, you could call them something like, I don't know, the automobile industry, then that would actually be the largest industry in the world anyway. But yes, more revenue comes from automobiles than oil and gas. Anyway, if there is something I've learned about billionaires, it's that they love being billionaires. And these industries have such enormous moats around them. I mean, can you imagine trying to start a new oil exploration company today? You may have heard of Jean-Paul Getty. He introduced geology into oil exploration and became incredibly successful, but the other oil companies did what they could to muscle him out. I recall at one stage he had something like millions of barrels of oil in storage, that they made it too hard for him to sell. Oil actually does go bad after about a couple of years. Eventually he did manage to sell his oil, and I believe he was actually the richest man in America for a period too. The automotive industry is the second biggest spender on advertising. Now, I'm willing to bet over the decades, the amount of money they've been spending has bought them some goodwill with media companies. The biggest industry is retail. Now, that encompasses thousands and thousands of brands. The auto industry has a lot fewer brands. It's closer to an oligopoly, which means that out of the 10 companies that spend the most on advertising, 3 of them are auto manufacturers. So given that the auto companies spend so much money with the media companies, I would say they let the auto companies' PR department come up with some pretty good Tesla FUD, and then the media companies are happy to peddle it. CNBC was a classic case. I'd watch it and just watch them spout lie after lie. Some of it was ignorance and was exasperated further. They loved to see people fail. They would host famous short sales on the show to let them get all their FUD out, and these people would have a good reputation of success in the past, and their opinions carry. We've seen the likes of the analysts, Gordon Johnson. I don't believe he could really have this much trouble understanding how Tesla works, so it's possible analysts like him are being paid to spread their negative views, with any clout that might possibly carry over. Anyway, plenty of reasons why many people wanted to keep Tesla down, so let's explore some of this FUD and get to the bottom of it all. Sorry guys, I don't want this channel just to be an echo chamber. I'm not here as a cheerleader to support your decision. There are plenty of other channels out there for that. I want to be objective to you and deliver real journalism, so I'm not going to lie to you. Tesla are still having some build quality issues. There are still gaps in the panels. But wait, how are they still selling cars with these gaps? Don't consumers refuse to take delivery and demand their money back? Sandy Munro just received a new 2021 Model 3 and noticed there are still gaps in the body panels. I think Tesla should be making cars where the panels align better, but as long as the door closes properly, at the end of the day, the rest of the car blows your mind away so much that you really don't care. And I think Sandy's one was perhaps a particularly bad one. My father purchased a Model 3 later last year, and we couldn't see any panel gaps. Sandy did admit that it was a drastic improvement from what he had seen in the past, so it sounds like they are working on the problem. Sandy is shocked, as it seems so simple to fix, and even suggests that he knows some people who can help. If this issue is that simple, then surely Tesla could have fixed it, with all their amazing engineers. Well, what we can infer is that it's a pretty easy problem to solve, especially when compared to something like an FSD neural network. So, as bad as their panels are, it doesn't seem to be impacting sales, and the consumers are still satisfied. Still, no excuse, but they can get away with it, at least for now. I think this issue also mainly occurs at Fremont, and possibly Shanghai is better. If any of you have seen the build quality of the made in China Model 3s, then please comment below. Fremont wasn't a purpose-built facility. It used to belong to GM and Toyota. Tesla managed to purchase the facility cheap at around $42 million. And what a place to be. A car manufacturing plant not too far from Silicon Valley. I wonder why. The paintwork hasn't been the best in the past either. Well, at least at Fremont. I believe this is partly due to the Fremont facility not being properly cleaned, and there are dust particles that get into the paintwork. In addition to that, California has very strict regulations, and I believe the paintwork isn't actually allowed to be that thick. However, Sandy says that the paint appears much better now. Perhaps they may have cleaned up the factory when they were shut down in COVID, So yes, paint was an issue in Fremont, but doesn't appear to be any longer. Tesla are losing market share in Europe. Yes, that is a fact. So just think of the FUD headlines you can make with that. I mean, how can you dispute something like this? For the first 11 months of 2020, Tesla's registrations have fallen 78% in the Netherlands and 75% in Norway. These are the two greenest markets and have the largest EV market share out of every country. I recall going to Amsterdam about 3 years ago and they had Model S taxis there. So why did they stop buying Teslas? Norway is actually one of the richest countries in the world per capita. This is due to their huge oil and gas sector and discoveries in the North Sea. The UK had the same, but rather than copy Margaret Thatcher, the UK Prime Minister, and lowering taxes for the people, Norway accumulated the wealth and invested it. They now have a sovereign wealth fund worth over $1 trillion. Not bad for a country with a population of only 5 million. This is part of the reason EVs are so prevalent in Norway. The country is so rich. They're subsidising the sales massively, along with other incentives. But back in the day, there was really only the Model S as a solution. I recall being in Norway a few years back and looking down the road from my hotel. I literally saw 3 Model S's lined up in a row at the lights. They were everywhere. This was before the Model 3 came out. As far as actual BEVs, there was very little other choice, especially in Europe. If I recall, the second most popular EV I saw there was the BMW i3. Just to be clear, when I say EVs, I'm really referring to only BEVs, which are the battery-powered electric vehicles. I don't care about PHEVs or plug-in hybrids, or even any hybrids. There's a huge difference. Tesla will make an effort to ship out a Model S as it's a much more profitable car. There's a lot more profit in a Model S than there is a Model 3, so it's worth shipping them to Norway. And even when Model 3 started shipping to Europe, Tesla were already very popular there and less known around the world. But now Tesla is a much more well-known brand, and EV demand has grown significantly everywhere. Tesla has opportunity costs. If they sell a Model 3 in Norway, it now means someone else will go without. Every car Tesla make gets sold. As Model 3 have less profit than Model S and X, they have less incentive to ship a Model 3 there, especially when there is someone in the States who wants one. It's much easier and cheaper to ship one to Utah than it is Norway. In fact, this is true everywhere for Tesla. Just think about it. There are only so many Teslas to go around. Tesla have decided where they want their cars sold. They have enough domestic demand in the US, they don't want to ship the cars elsewhere. It adds to expense and complications, and effort that could be focused elsewhere. They won't make as much profit from the sale. In October 2020, they even started delivering some of the made in China Model 3s to Europe, just to keep some supply going over. Meanwhile, you have European EVs evolving and growing and selling locally. So Tesla are sending less cars there, and Europeans are producing more EVs locally. Therefore, the Tesla's market share will obviously fall. Well, this is temporary, of course. I'm happy to bet one Tesla share with any of you that early next year, Tesla will have the largest market share of EVs in every country in Europe. Why? Because their Berlin factory will have ramped up somewhat by then. Currently, the Renault Zoe and the Volkswagen ID.3 have the largest market share in Europe, at around 10,000 units a month. I don't think it likely they're able to scale up much more than that anytime soon, partly because of battery constraints, and possibly the fact they don't want to, as they may be making a loss on these vehicles. Remember regulatory credits? Well, if you make your own EVs, then you don't have to buy the tax credits from Tesla. So even if the cars are made at a loss, it's still a cost saving for the manufacturer. So considering it took only 3 months for Giga Shanghai to reach a run rate of 10,000 cars a month, I see no reason why this won't be achieved this year in Berlin. It's a much bigger factory and they've learned so much more since. In fact, I see no reason why Tesla won't take the majority of the market share sometime next year for the whole of Europe. Yes, I'm saying sometime next year, over half of all these purchased in Europe will be Tesla. And this is just the Model Y. Can you imagine the market share of the Model 2 when that's released? It's going to be over 90%. There's nothing else in the pipeline from anyone else to say otherwise. And who else could scale up batteries that much anyway? And then we get consumer reports on full self-driving, where Tesla only ranks 3 out of 5 stars, and then Cadillac gets 4 stars. How is that possible? Well, it's quite easy when you pick arbitrary ranking factors as to what makes a good FSD. And when GM is a very good advertising customer, it makes it very easy to manipulate figures. So how do they measure FSD? Well, they take something like 5 random FSD features, things like driver awareness are included, and the actual FSD software itself is only one of these factors. So because Cadillac have an internal camera that can tell whether your eyes are focused on the road or not, it means their FSD has a higher rating than Tesla's. But in reality, there's only one way to measure FSD, and it's how good the actual FSD really is. Nothing to see here. Tesla dominates FSD in every capacity that matters. Tesla only make money from regulatory credits. I'm sure you've all heard this. And yes, okay, some quarters they would not have made a profit if it had not been for these credits. So what? Tesla don't need to make any profits yet. They're still so young. They made 500,000 cars in 2020, but aiming to get to 20 million a year. To reach 20 million, it takes a lot of investment. Why would you want to take small amounts of profit now if it's going to hinder your growth for the enormous payday in 5 to 10 years' time? They're planning on expanding their car production 40 times more, and then plan on growing their energy business to the same level on top of that. All of this requires huge amounts of capital. Besides, Tesla now can make profits without regulatory credits. However, it looks like they'll be getting more regulatory credits coming from Honda soon. How hard is it for the competition to keep up with Tesla already? But the fact they have to pay Tesla too, which Tesla then used to build more factories, it's just insane. Okay, perhaps their customer service might not be great. I have heard mixed reviews. But the fact a technician comes to your house to fix your car, rather than you having to book it in, is a major convenience. And seriously, I believe it's just difficult to maintain good customer service when you're growing this fast, with this many products. But it has been a problem that has been identified, and Tesla are doing what they can, but it's not easy. Just like their deliveries each quarter. It's hard when every quarter you have to deliver more than the last and hire extra delivery staff. So I hope that puts some of you at ease a bit more about the FUD. Well, thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.